Now you can use this simple Montessori shelf setup guide standing alone. It's plenty to keep your child engaged, happy, and working on those Montessori goals of freedom and independence and creativity and overall child development. If you have this set of shelves and a basket of good books and basket of instruments and you, the loving, caring, patient, knowledgeable adult, the great outdoors, some gross motor activities, really, that's all you need. Hi, welcome to Miss Julie's Montessori Minutes. I'm Miss Julie here in my Montessori Toddler classroom. I'm also a Montessori teacher trainer. The first category is using two hands together in a way that strengthens the child's hands. In Montessori, we call this the open and closing activities. Things like spice jars or old candy or mint containers in a variety of shapes. Great for strength. You can tighten them in varying degrees, or they will end up tightening them in varying degrees. It's a great one and can be, other than the container, pretty much free when you repurpose those items. The next is paper tearing. Now you can also consider this a practical life activity, and we do in my Montessori toddler classroom, but for the purposes of your Montessori shelf setup guide, it is a great, nearly free practice that you can do with just some old magazine papers, which is what we find works really well, or some newspaper clippings, or junk mail. And it's practical life because after we tear the papers, we put them in our worm bin, so that's caring for the environment. All right, we have working with clay, and pretty early on in the year in my classroom, we move away from Play-Doh to non-hardening clay because, as you can see, it takes a little bit more muscle and coordination to work with the clay. It's chosen every day, multiple times a day. My students just love this clay. All right, the second category in our Montessori shelf setup guide for toddlers is practical life. And on this set of shelves, we're just going to have something very simple that the child can use every day for practical life, and something my students just use continuously here in the classroom, and that is a sponge. You can either keep it wet, just wet it daily, or give them a lesson on how to wet it themselves when they need it, but just a little container to keep it in. It's nice to color coordinate if you can, but the Montessori police aren't going to come get you if you're not color coordinated. There are no Montessori police. This is good for cleaning up after they've been doing some messy work. No big deal, they just go get their sponge and clean it up. If you have no other individual practical life work for your toddler, get a sponge. It'll change their little lives and yours. They can contribute to the greater good of the community in this case being your home, and one way they can do that is they can dust. Now, this is just a simple small cloth napkin. It could be a towel on a tray. Again, doesn't have to be color coordinated. And then the children just use it to dust. So that can be a fun activity you do together. Another great item for the practical life shelf of our little Montessori shelf setup is a basket of towels. And these we would call floor towels because they're for cleaning up spills on the floor, and most likely your toddler spills from time to time, intentionally and otherwise, and that way it's no big deal. They just go to their little basket, grab a towel, clean it up, and then put it in your laundry basket. So it's good to have 3 or 4 towels, and to be prepared that once you show them this process, they might spill intentionally for a while, but that is usually just a phase. Okay, I've got 2 more categories for you, but please take a moment to like this video if you're finding it helpful. Right, the third category on your Montessori shelf setup is art expression. It's a tray with some paper, and we just do a half sheet. It's plenty for the toddlers in my classroom, and we start at age 18 months. And then some high quality crayons, at a minimum Crayola Other, the really inexpensive brands sometimes just don't work that well, and then coloring's not fun. The higher quality of crayon you have, the easier it is to glide. All right, the second item is collage. In my classroom, we do use a little gluing brush and a little pot of glue, and I invite you to do the same. Remember, they have that sponge for cleanup right there on the shelf. But if not, handy dandy little glue stick works too. And then we teach them how to put glue on the shape and transfer it to the paper. And if you have questions on how to, present a Montessori lesson, I'll link a video below. The art expression shelf, there's just so many possibilities. An easy one to put together is a little clipboard. You can get those like in the Target dollar section oftentimes, or the dollar store. And just a little container of colored pencils. You could also do markers. And they like to have these little pencils because they see the adults using items for writing that look a little more like this than the crayons. Also, doesn't a clipboard just make you feel important? All right, in the fourth category on our Montessori shelf setup, and developmental aids are just aids that help develop the child's coordination. So a lot of times you will just use toys they're already playing with for this category. A few ideas I have here are just the most popular, tend to be in our classroom. And once a shape sorter, now this is a more expensive wooden one available for purchase from Name House, but chances are you have a shape sorter already, or you can find one at secondhand stores pretty easily. And for home use, you might not want to invest in a super expensive one that really has to stand up to a lot of wear and tear. Now, beading is a very popular activity too, and another great one for using two hands together. Beads are pretty easy to find at toy stores. You just want to make sure, of course, that the beads you have are suitable for children to mouth, because even the older ones that are doing the beading occasionally will mouth items too, and that they're not a choking hazard. So just a little bit of string with a bead for stopping the other beads from falling off the string, though eventually you won't need that stop bead and they'll just learn to stop at the knot. Another versatile and well-loved item for the developmental aid shelf are pegboards. Now we do have wooden ones that we use here at school. Ones like these tend to be very easy to find, and you may already have one or may not have the budget for the wooden ones. But what I like to do is have either all the same shape or all the same color. So this time we have all the same color, and that's what we call isolation of difficulty. And guess what? You don't have to have all the pegs out at a time. They just have fun moving the pegs around and stacking them, and then as they get used to playing with them, you can of course add more pegs as well. And puzzles are great developmental aid. They're great for eye-hand coordination as well as developing spatial reasoning skills. Just 12 items representing 4 categories for an easy Montessori shelf setup, and these items can be recombined in 81 different ways, always having one item from each category on this little shelf, and that'll keep things fresh and interesting to your child, and you just switch them out based on your observation. Okay, if you want to see more content like this on my channel, please be sure to subscribe and turn on that notification bell. That's the best way to let the YouTube algorithm and me know what kind of content you like. All right, thanks for watching and take care.